Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Earthen's Den. And in today's episode, I want to talk to you guys about something that I think a lot of people feel as though it's a right or wrong. We want to blame somebody, right? We want to point the finger. And if I'm being honest, I think that we all can really sit in this space and humble ourselves, right? Social media has depicted the perfect relationship in regards to this dynamic. And I think that there are some people who have this relationship with those who are in their lives, and they have this relationship with their paternal parents or individuals who may have served in that position in their lives. But for a lot of us, especially Black people, we don't have fathers in relationships with them that are healthy. That is a healthy dynamic. That is a structured dynamic. So first and foremost, I just want to say that when you listen to this episode, sit in a space and humble yourself. If you have a good relationship with your father, that's amazing, right? Like consider yourself blessed. You're lucky, right? But I want to speak to those who do not have the best relationship with your father. And we now in a time where society will, and it's really like a culture thing, right? Like culture is really setting this up to where it's like, if you do not have a healthy relationship with your father, or if you do not know your father, that you or even if your father may has passed, maybe if it was something that your father, maybe he was struggling with like alcoholism or all of these things that are flooded and plaguing our community. A lot of people have a hard time sitting in this space and accepting it and recognizing that just because you didn't have that does not mean that you can't go on in your life and do great things. Just because you have a wound, right, in regards to your father, or you didn't have a relationship with your father, or your father's there, but he's not there emotionally, physically, and the list goes on. That doesn't mean that you're washed up, and I'm so sick and tired of this narrative, because I think that this is the problem right here, right? So I want to encourage anybody who is in this space and you may not have the desired relationship with your father or your mother or either one of your parents. First of all, I need everybody to understand that as a whole, as Black people in general, the hands that we're dealt, the things that are in our community, the systemic regulations and things that are put in place to break down our household, right? I also want you guys to take in consideration that segregation, right? How far we had to come to be to where we are today. I want you to take into consideration the previous podcast episode where I talked to you guys about the workplace, dealing with racism in the workplace, and just how sometimes going into certain places, dealing with racism overall is a heavy burden to carry, right? And so the problem that I see in our community is that we're too against each other. We never hold that space. Now, I just want to say, listen, take that into consideration as we get into this episode, because I think that too often people are just so high and mighty. You know what I mean? So high and mighty. And I'm not saying if you have a great dad, you really are blessed. You know what I mean? Or even some relationship with your father, you're blessed. But for many Black people, you don't. And that doesn't mean that you're broken. It doesn't mean that you're inept or you're washed up. Yeah, there's some things that you missed out on. There are some experiences you missed out on. There are some things in your life that you do need that you did not get. And I think that you should hold that space for you and for that child. Take the time to journal it. Take the time to go to therapy. Take the time to go take a walk and talk to God about it. You know what I mean? Sit in that space and hold that space for yourself, because that's a real thing. And you not having that, it does suck and it does hurt. And you can even sit in a space and recall the times and when you wish you had it, or the differences it would have made when you were at that game, or when you were getting to know this person, or when you were confused with this certain type situation. You see what I'm saying? And even if you have your dad in your life and maybe the relationship isn't healthy, sit in that space for yourself, and understand that what you're feeling is valid. But overall, I think that this is something that I'm canceling out, right? I don't know. I can't, I'm not a part of cancel culture, but we're definitely going to cancel out on my podcast and my space, because I think that this is something that we all can relate to. And I just feel like if, first and foremost, if you are someone who says, oh, this person has quote unquote daddy issues, I'm going to need you to grow up. I'm going to need you to sit in a space where you can understand what is going on. And then I'm going to need you to make a decision, right? But what we're not going to do is we're going to refrain from judging that, because not because of that person, right? Not because that person is messed up or jacked up and because that may be valid. That person may just be crazy, right? But I think as a whole, we have to look at the bigger picture and understand that it wasn't designed for us that way. And a lot of us did not have that privilege. And I'm not saying that we didn't make certain decisions, right? I'm not saying that there are those who came before us, right? Our parents and generations before who didn't make different, who made different decisions that led them into situations where they could not be there, right? like, of course, accountability is a real thing, and you can even hold the space for that too. Like, that's fine. But what I am saying is that it's important to recognize that as a whole, it's something that is just, it's a deficit in our community. You know what I mean? There just aren't a lot of fathers, unfortunately. And yes, it has been by design. And there's another half of that there were poor choices that were made, right? So overall, I think that Black men and Black youth in general, let's talk about Black youth, right? Because that's where we're at now. They need role models. Like, they need role models. They need people to show them what it's like and show them the representation. And, you know, as women, it's not our job, our duty, right? Like, to come into that space and show them that, you know, although I do think that women do have the capacity to raise some amazing sons if that was the hands that were dealt, you know, but just overall, like, I'm talking about maybe even like in dating relationships, right? Because that was the last episode we talked about that. But it's just important to understand that. And I just want to talk to people who kind of feel like they don't have that perfect relationship that they may deem perfect, or they may deem as whatever, or their parent is no longer here, that you're okay. And like, you're going to be good, and you're going to learn from this. The beautiful thing about today is that we are living in such a revolutionary time. I always kind of sit back and I just kind of take, like, whenever I don't want to make a podcast, right? Or whenever I'm in a space where I'm second guessing myself, I got to a point in my life where I would just sit in a space and think about my history. You know what I mean? I think about my ancestors. I think about how hard they work, how diligently they worked. My great-grandparents were entrepreneurs. And the fact that I'm located just around the corner from them and where they used to live and their homes and their properties is just crazy to me. So I take this time to understand how blessed I am. And I don't take it for granted, right? I sit in this space and I realize, like, man, they would have killed for the opportunities that they have today. You can go online and learn how to do anything. You know what I mean? Like, straight up. And I'm not saying that, you know, because like I said, the thing about this too is, like, a lot of times you have coaches and speakers and a lot of people who are giving assistance to some extent in regards to these relational dynamics, and it doesn't make you feel good about yourself, right? And I like I said, so I just want you to look at it as a big picture. And if you meet somebody and you realize that, you know what, maybe they don't have guidance in this area, that's fine. You know, that's fine. You make a decision at that point, you know, whether or not you want to engage with a person. But to me, that's no different than whether or not you like the way somebody just is the way they are. You know what I mean? Do you like them? Do you like what they do? Do you like what they're about? Like, you know what I mean? So I just want right now for us to cancel out this whole point the finger, like, this person is messed up because it is. Because at the end of the day, it's a communal, and it's a bigger problem than just you and I. You know what I mean? Like, it's so much bigger than that. And so you need to open your mind, and you have to understand that, you know, the hands that are dealt and the influence and just so many other things that go into that. And if you are struggling with that, I definitely recommend seeking mentors, right? And we talk about mentorship. It doesn't always have to be in regards to like someone physically, right? Like, you can definitely find mentors online. Like I said, that's for you to do your own discerning. I was in a space before where I made a podcast episode and I talked about finding mentors, but I don't want to sit in that space. And really just because, you know, I personally, I don't, you know, like, I didn't meet this person formally. I don't want to say this, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to say that I don't want to share that, because I don't feel as though I personally have vetted and qualified that person in order to pass them through on my podcast and say, yeah, go listen to this. You know what I mean? So that's not what I'm trying to do, but just know that it's possible, you know, and just understand that through everything that everything you didn't have, like, that just makes you 10 times stronger. You know what I mean? Like, that was less of a resource, but look at you still making it through with the things that you've been given, the hands that you've been dealt. You know what I mean? So you have to really sit in a space and understand that at the end of the day, you're not a victim, you're a survivor. You know what I mean? And you're 10 times stronger than you think. You know what I mean? And that's something that's so dope, right? You know what I mean? Like, just sitting in that space, like, it's awesome. And even though you don't, like, for my ladies, we don't always want to be strong. Understand that we don't have to be. You know what I mean? Like, I definitely recommend for my ladies to carve some time out of your day to just be, you know, and that's why I'm always encouraging people to get over to the subscription service, because that's the space for us to just be. Like, we're just going to be, we're going to talk about things. It doesn't always necessarily have to be in regards to trauma and issues like that. But what I am saying is that I definitely make sure that I create a space that is inspirational and empowering for women, because, we don't have that. And women are just not allowed to just kind of be, right? We kind of have to be performative or perfect, or, especially in today's society, it's almost like there is no level for like reality in regards to women, right? Because you got the perfect skin in IG models, and you got the girls who got the perfect bodies, right? Like, it's crazy. So it's like, it's even 10 times worth now more than ever. But I think that the beautiful thing about this, for my ladies, I'm gonna say this, and honestly, I could actually conclude this to anybody who's real. Like, the beautiful thing about the real is like real stuff is going to prevail. You know what I mean? Real stuff. Like, when all of this is done and over with, like, the real is going to still be standing. You know what I mean? And that's something that nobody can never take away from you. You know what I mean? And there is no replica for that. Like, when you real, you raw, you honest, oh yeah, you got some truth, and that's some heart right there. You know what I mean? We see you showing up, we see you being authentic. Like, own your stuff, own everything that you've been through, and know that there are no limits. You know what I mean? Link up with God. Understand there are no limits. Like, you got this. You know what I mean? And I tell you guys all the time, your walk with God is your walk with God. You know what I mean? You could be in your word every day. You could be doing it, but you may not want to be the person to get online and share that. Or that may not be what you feel like God is calling you to do, to stand on that front line and share the word of God and do those things. You know what I mean? You got to understand, like, that spirit of comparison, understand that at the end of the day, that's up to you. Like, you decide how you want to move, but I do encourage you to get a relationship with God, because now more than ever, times is hard, and especially, like I said, us being human beings, us not being created as individuals, right? Like, we're never apart from God, but we are created for community, right? And now more than ever, people have such a hard time building that community, because everybody feels that they have to be something other than themselves to fit. Right. And I'm just here to tell you right now, like, you got to be you, straight up. Like, you have to be you so that you can attract. I'm not even going to keep saying attract. You got to be you so that when something is for you, when the real shows up for you, you can accept it, and you can recognize it, and you can know, yeah, this is for me, because I know who I am, and I'm rooted in me, and I'm real. So yeah, when I see this opportunity, or when I see this person, or when I see this, you know what I mean? That's mine. You can identify that, and God's going to show that to you, but He can't really show you when you fronting. You know what I mean? Because it's like, well, that ain't really me, but since it's an opportunity and I'm in this space, and I'm perping like I got this, or I do this, or I'm about this, right? And you're taking stuff, and that just leads to misery. And at the end of the day, you're going to crash and burn, right? Because nothing that's built on a false foundation will ever sustain, right? That's why I talked to you guys about love in that last episode. I'm like, love never fails, okay? If it was love, y'all be rocking and rolling, right? Friends, fam, like, y'all be rocking and rolling if it was real love. You know what I mean? Because, I know myself, I know how I love, I know how I feel, like, so that's a big thing, and I also want to say this too, ending with this, you got to understand your boundaries. Like, I think I just talked to y'all about this in this last episode, but you got to understand your boundaries. Like, for me, when it comes to boundaries, I recognize that for Jaylin, like, I know how much I'm going to give and how much I'm going to show up, right? I understand that I'm the oldest. I'm the oldest sister, right? So just by law, naturally, I just feel like I've taken on a lot of responsibility. I used to have a tendency of doing that. On top of being a Black woman, right? We're seen as the matriarch of the family. We're seen as the person who has to carry everybody on their shoulders. People are expecting us to be that way. Our pain oftentimes is never validated because we're seen as so strong, so independent. So it's like when we say we're in pain, nobody really validates that. We're taught to chuck it up, keep it pushing, right? We got our oldest OGs in the game telling us, be independent. You can't depend on them. Can't, you know what I mean? So I get it. Like, let me just say, I get it. I've been that person who didn't know her limits and didn't know the capacity, right? But through that dirt, through everything that was through on me, through everything I had to overcome, everything I pushed through, I understand true sense of value. And so for me, having that true sense of value, I had to put up like boundaries, you know what I mean? Boundaries, like walls, boundaries, all of that around me, because Jaylin is real, you know what I mean? Like, she's precious. Like, I gotta hold on, you know what I mean? I gotta protect her, right? And so once I realized that, I realized like certain things I'm no longer gonna do. not for you, not for like for nobody, And so you got to understand, like, when you're in that space and you know who you are and you get it, like, understand everything that you did not have, you just 10 times stronger, because you didn't have that. So just imagine, like, how, we standing neck and neck, and this is not comparison. I'm just here to empower you. Like, you standing neck and neck with somebody who had all these opportunities and these things in position, like, you just 10 times stronger because you ain't have that, and you here, and that's not for you to, disrespect anybody or put anybody down. That's not for you to compare yourself and say, oh, this person's weak. Like, no, we're not doing that. I'm just saying, I'm saying that to empower you to know that, like, that says a lot, right? Like, you one of God's chosen ones, like, that's, you know what I mean? So anyway, put your boundaries up, like, understand that, there are just certain things you're not going to move and you're not going to do, right? Just because you are who you are and you know yourself well enough, and that's important, right? So that's all I got for you guys today. This was an amazing podcast episode. I feel like we talked about a few different things, and I look forward to really hitting on these things. Make sure you guys definitely get over to the subscription service. Like, big plans for that service. It's just gonna be awesome. Like, I think you guys are really gonna enjoy it. But definitely, I appreciate everybody who's been rocking with me. Like, I'm so thankful to have men on the podcast as well, just because, for myself, I just want to inspire, I want to inspire. And so, like I said, I'm definitely highly focused and tailored towards women, but I appreciate the love and I appreciate the acknowledgement, right? And it means a lot. So I hope everybody has an amazing day and understand that, you're enough, like, straight up, you know what I mean? Like, you really are enough, and that's all you need. Like, everything you have is what you need. If you needed it, it would have been there. You know what I mean? So I just want to talk to you guys about that and understand too, like, when it comes to today's culture, honey, like, none of that stuff is real. You know what I mean? Like, most of that stuff is just not real. And I'm not saying that it's not something that we don't have to, applaud when we see people who are happy and we see, you know what I mean? Like, definitely sit in that space with people, because you got to know, if God did it for them, he'll do it for you. But what I am saying is that understand that when it comes to today's age, you got to be real discerning. You got to be deep. You got to be able to see, like, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, for real, like, you got to be able to see beyond what you see, like, real talk. Like, you have to be able to see beyond what you see, because now today, honey, it's smoke and mirrors, girl. It's smoke and mirrors. But okay, you guys, have a good day and keep your head up, keep your head up and just know, like, you got this.